The room was warm with laughter. Glasses clinked. Someone tapped a spoon against crystal, asking for a speech. 19 years of marriage deserved applause, they said. A milestone, a victory. I stood up, smiled politely, and looked around at the faces that thought they knew our story. And then I said it. We've been married for 19 and a half years. The laughter stopped, just for a second. Too short for most people to notice, but long enough for her to look at me. Because she knew. That missing half year wasn't a joke. It wasn't a mistake. It was the truth no one talks about. When we married, people said we were lucky. Not lucky in love, lucky in timing. We were young enough to dream, but old enough to commit. We laughed easily, we fought rarely. We were the couple others compared themselves to. 19 years of shared mornings, shared bills, shared plans. From the outside, our marriage looked complete. But marriages don't break all at once. They thin out quietly, like fabric worn by years of washing. Somewhere around year 18, something shifted. Nothing dramatic, no shouting, no betrayal anyone could point to. Just gaps. Conversations that ended too quickly, touches that felt automatic, silences that stayed longer than they should. We still lived together, but we no longer arrived together. I noticed first in the evenings. She'd sit beside me, phone glowing, smiling at something I didn't ask about. I told myself it was harmless. Marriage teaches you how to ignore small alarms. That missing half year began quietly. It started with distance dressed up as being busy, with emotional absence explained away as stress. We slept in the same bed, but on opposite sides. We shared meals, but not thoughts. She was still my wife, but she wasn't with me. And the worst part? I stayed silent too, because admitting loneliness inside a marriage feels more frightening than being alone. I didn't plan to say it. I swear I didn't. But anniversaries do something dangerous. They force you to summarize a life in one sentence. Everyone expected a speech about love, patience, gratitude. Instead, what came out was honesty. 19 and a half years. Not 20. Not rounded up. Because rounding up would have been a lie. Her hand tightened around her glass. No one else noticed, but her eyes met mine, and something flickered there. Guilt. Recognition. Fear. That half year wasn't just distance. It was the period when she stopped choosing us, even if she never physically left. Emotional absence leaves fingerprints too. It was when I stopped telling her about my bad days, when she stopped asking how I slept, when love turned into logistics. It was when marriage became maintenance instead of connection. That half year wasn't about another man or another woman. It was about neglect, mutual, quiet, and devastating. People clapped, awkwardly. Someone laughed it off. But later that night, when the house was silent again, she asked, "Why did you say that?" And for the first time in months, maybe years, we actually talked. Not about bills, not about plans, about us. I told her I felt invisible. She told me she felt taken for granted. Neither of us were villains. Neither of us were innocent. That's the cruel truth about long marriages. You can hurt each other deeply without meaning to. People think leaving is the brave choice. Sometimes staying and rebuilding is harder. Staying means admitting failure without walking away. It means doing the work after the damage. That half year forced us to decide. Do we continue pretending? Or do we start again, honestly? I don't regret that sentence, because lies age marriages faster than truth ever could. 19 and a half years wasn't an insult. It was an invitation to acknowledge what we lost and decide whether we wanted to find it again. We're learning to speak before resentment builds, listen without preparing defenses, touch with intention, not habit. We're not perfect, but we're present. If you're counting years in your marriage, count honestly, because love doesn't disappear suddenly. It fades when left unspoken. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is tell the truth, even at a celebration. We weren't married for 19 and a half years because we failed. We were married that long because we survived long enough to notice the cracks. And maybe, just maybe, that honesty will carry us into year 20, the right way. When the guests left, the house felt different. Not empty, exposed. Plates were stacked in the sink.
Half-finished drinks sat on the table. The balloons that once looked festive now felt fragile, like they were holding air that didn't belong anymore. She stood by the kitchen counter, arms crossed. "You embarrassed me," she said quietly. I shook my head. I told the truth. And that's when the real anniversary began. Not the one people celebrate. The one where two people decide whether they still want each other or just the history. It didn't explode into shouting. It unfolded slowly, like a drawer finally pulled open after being stuck for years. She told me she felt lonely long before I did. She said somewhere along the way she stopped feeling seen. And the hardest part? I realized I had stopped seeing her too.
Not intentionally, just gradually. Marriage doesn't die from one betrayal most of the time. It weakens from small neglects repeated daily. That half year I mentioned, it was the season when she cried in the bathroom so I wouldn't hear. I stayed longer at work because home felt heavy. We both pretended everything was fine. There was no affair, no dramatic exit, just emotional absence. An emotional absence can feel worse than physical betrayal because it's invisible. You can't accuse someone of it. You can only feel it. At 2:17 a.m., when the argument had softened into exhaustion, she asked, "Do you still love me, or are we just used to each other?" That question didn't attack. It revealed fear. And for the first time in a long time, I answered without ego. "I love you, but I forgot how to show it." She broke down, not because I said I loved her, but because I finally admitted we were struggling. The truth is, we considered separating, not publicly, quietly. We even discussed practical things, who would move, how we would tell family, whether 19 years meant we should just endure it. And that's when something strange happened. Talking about ending it made us realize we didn't want to, not because of fear, because of unfinished love. Habit says, stay because it's easier. Choice says, stay because you want to. For months, we were running on habit. That night, we decided to try choice. And choice is uncomfortable. It requires vulnerability. People think reconciliation looks dramatic. It doesn't. It looks like awkward conversations, therapy sessions where you admit ugly truths, apologies without but, listening without interrupting. It looks like trying again when it would be easier to shut down. There were days we slipped back into silence, but this time we caught it faster. 3 months after that speech, we went out, just the two of us. No guests, no speeches, no performance, just dinner. At one point, she reached across the table and held my hand. Not automatically, not out of habit, intentionally. And I realized something. We weren't fixing 19 years. We were starting year 1 again. People thought it was a joke, but it was a marker, a line in time. The half year we lost and the half year that saved us, because if I hadn't said it, we might still be pretending. Marriage isn't endless passion, perfect communication, constant happiness. It's cycles, connection, distance, repair. The problem isn't drifting. The problem is refusing to admit you drifted. Many couples celebrate anniversaries while silently grieving what they used to be. They smile in photos. They thank each other publicly. They hide privately. We almost became that couple permanently. Instead, we chose discomfort over denial. Chapter 24, where we stand now. Are we perfect? No. But we're aware. We talk sooner. We check in more. We don't assume love maintains itself. And sometimes when we joke about it, she teases me. "So, are we at 19 3/4 now?" And we laugh, because now the time feels earned again. That sentence at our anniversary wasn't meant to hurt. It was meant to wake us up. Sometimes the bravest act in a relationship isn't leaving. It's admitting something is broken before it shatters completely. We weren't married for 19.5 years. We were married for 19 years and fought for the rest. And maybe that fight is what will carry us into year 20. Not perfectly, but honestly.